This episode of Power Metal Point is one that I've wanted to do since I came up with the very idea for this show over half a year ago. There are major issues facing local music scenes today in most cities, particularly for lesser-known venues that host local bands. Having played in a band for the better part of a decade, as well as having friends who are musicians, promoters, and bar owners, I have some level of understanding of how many of the stakeholders involved in smaller music venues are affected. The point of this video is not to attack bar owners, industry people, promoters, or even make bands out to be the good guys. It's simply to shed some light on some of the big issues facing local music scenes today. Even though most of this episode has been written for quite some time, I recently discovered a great blog post floating around the internet by LA jazz musician Dave Goldberg called Why LA Club Owners Are Totally Lost and Some Advice for Them from a Professional Musician. It's a rather smart article that brings up some excellent points about how bar owners expect bands to be able to do so much more than just show up and perform well. I'll be addressing some of his posts in this video, and I highly recommend reading it. Let me begin with an anecdote to serve as a case study for a number of the things I'll be talking about in this video. Within the past year, I played a local show with two other bands. I'm not going to say who the bands were or where, because it really doesn't matter, and this scenario could apply to more than a dozen shows I've played. That night, a rough estimate of the non-band patrons that came out numbered about 60 or so. Not a terrible number of people for a smaller venue in a mid-sized city with a busy downtown scene, but the bar was by no means packed. All in all, not a bad night for anyone. We had a good crowd, sold a few CDs, the bar sold probably about $600 to $800 worth of booze, and made money. At the end of the night, when it's time to get paid, the bar owner is true to his word and pays each band $20, which is a percentage of the bar. That night, each band played a 45-minute set, and I've done a number of shows for free, so being able to see any money at the end of the night is a good thing. However, let me break this down for you. As you've no doubt already done the math in your head, in a 4-person band, $20 becomes $5 per person. If you have a manager or anyone else involved, it now becomes $4 per person, and shrinks progressively from there. Where I live, the minimum wage is presently just over $10 per hour. Now, if we played a 45-minute set for $5, that equates to $6.67 per hour per person. Remember, this $5 is our payment for an entire night's work. All of the gas involved, parking costs, any food and drinks, sometimes the bar will let the band drink for free, lugging in gear in and out of the venue, not to mention in and out of my own house, the thousands of dollars spent on amps, guitars, drums, perhaps a PA system, renting a sound guy, to say nothing of all the gas and time consumed rehearsing, learning the material, time spent flyering and Facebooking, not to mention the several hours you could have been working at your normal job that night, as a number of us take time off work to play a show. Now, imagine if you went into your day job and your boss said, well, because our product isn't selling as well as we'd hoped, you're now going to be making 65% of minimum wage. You'd probably tell your boss to F off and quit on the spot. But bands put up with this all the time. The bar didn't do as well as they'd hoped, so you're bringing in less money at the end of the night. Before you go butting me about money, look, I know a number of business owners who work 70-hour work weeks and make far less than minimum. Stuart from Big Bang Theory jokes that owning a comic book store nets him something like $1.70 an hour. Others in management might make $50,000 or more a year, but when all is said and done, for all the extra time they put in, they end up making less per hour than the guy working on the floor making $30,000 a year. Likewise, think of a concert promoter who brings a national act to a venue locally. For argument, let's say, Power Glove. Let's say tickets are $8 a piece and 50 people show up. That nets the promoter $400. The only problem is he has a contract with the band saying that he owes them $500 plus hotel for the night. The promoter has now not only lost money that night, but also money on the time he spent flyering and promoting as well. People lose money all the time and don't always make fair wages for their labor. That's life. Also, speaking of non-musicians, let's backtrack to that bar owner who booked us I just talked about. Well, he just spent a lot of money stocking his bar with booze, expecting that a lot of people would be drinking. He's also paying other staff members to run the bar, which is more people he has to pay. He's also working this evening himself and would like to be paid and make money at the end of the night just like everybody else, despite booking a band that, from his end, doesn't appear to be too popular if their name can't draw more people. You see, for many years, venues did very well with local bands. I've talked to a number of older musicians throughout North America who told me about being able to make a good living throughout the 70s, 80s, and into the mid-90s or so, by purely playing shows in local watering holes, making $1,200 for a weekend of shows and so forth. Packed clubs every night. However, by the mid-90s, a new scene had taken over. Bars began to discover, along with the general audience's taste changing, that they could pay a DJ $200 a night, one guy, and pack the place. Or they could pay a band several times more that amount and often have fewer patrons show up. It doesn't take a math genius from here to discover why the number of live venues is drying up in almost every city you visit. Dance clubs are popular and the demand for them is high. Why take a risk with a live venue? There are also other competing entertainment forms such as cable TV, the internet, video games, DVDs, and so many other things. But let's leave all those off the table for this video, alright? Alright, now to see the bar owner in a different light. Dave Goldberg writes in his article of a scenario where a bar owner says he'll pay a band $75 for a show, but the band must bring out at least 25 people. Not an unreasonable request, but he illustrates the absurdity of this situation by saying, what if I had a house party and said my band would be playing it, but we needed a bartender to serve drinks that night? We'd pay you $75 to do it, but we need you as the bartender to bring at least 25 people to the party. Obviously, in this reversal of roles, he illustrates the silliness of demanding a band bring people out. After all, should a restaurant owner demand the dishwasher, waiters, chefs all have their family and friends eat at the restaurant every single night? That would be insane. But again, bands are demanded that they bring out their friends and family to every show that they play. Bands can try and promote where they can, but the bar itself must offer something special to keep patrons coming back. Otherwise, the band's friends will go to the place once, and if the band never plays there again, they'll never go back. Likewise, I've had friends see us play at a bar and then keep returning there afterwards because they like the atmosphere. It had a lot of places to sit, maybe a pool table, maybe a great sound guy, so this can definitely go both ways. The only problem is, when it comes to bands, however, all promoters and venue owners require a name to draw a crowd. When I go to a concert at the Palace of Auburn Hills, I don't show up randomly that night just because I like the decor and hope that whatever random show is playing is good. I'm showing up because Megadeth, or whoever, is playing. The promoter depends on Megadeth having enough name recognition that 10,000 people will decide they want to spend $40+ to see them that night. Most local bands, though, just aren't a name people recognize. If no one's heard of your band, regardless of how good you are, the venue depends on you to bring people out, such as friends and family, because they care about who you are. Many people just don't go to a bar for a random night of music, especially not anymore with all those competing entertainment mediums we just talked about. If people do come out randomly to a bar, they go because they expect to hear songs they know or that a band is going to be playing a certain style. However, it seems it would be more likely for certain types of people to go to a particular music venue week in and week out if the bands they booked were of a consistent quality. This obviously doesn't really help a lot of younger and inexperienced bands, but it will help clubs attract a following rather than having one band bring 100 people one Saturday and another band play to an empty bar the next. And though live venues probably won't admit this, their clientele are friends of the band. Essentially, when you try and promote shows convincing people to come out, you're demanding that your friends drive to a bar to pay you to play for them. Why does your wife or best friend want to come see you when they've already heard you play for the last 10 years and your music is to the point of memorization? Your friends are probably also sick of being pandered constantly to on Facebook, in person, and however else, even if they like your music. Ask any band who's played for several years in any given local music scene more than 2 to 3 times a year, and they'll tell you 2 inherent problems they face. The first is that it's impossible to convince your friends and family to come see you every single show. Your friends cannot and will not. People have their own lives and countless things going on. Maybe they have kids and can't come out. Maybe they have a wedding to attend that weekend. Maybe they're sick with a cold. Maybe Metallica is playing in town for the first time in 2 years, and they'd rather see Metallica that time. The The second problem that often gets overlooked is that when a band is out of high school or college, their ability to both promote and bring people out dwindles. In school, your pool of possible acquaintances is larger, and the people you know at those ages have more leisure time and typically less responsibilities. As you start to grow older, suddenly your friends have a lot more responsibility to deal with as they begin to have families and full-time jobs and own their own houses and so forth. So at this point, you're probably thinking, poor Mr. Musician who's clearly terrible at finances, why would you even bother to waste your time and energy on playing local shows? The simplest answer I can give is that being on stage makes me happy. Think of all the countless years of learning to play the guitar, practicing songs, rehearsing with a band, recording CDs. In a live venue with an audience is where all of this hard work has an actual payoff. There are virtually no other experiences with the exception of copious amounts of drug use like that of being on stage. Ask any actor, public speaker, or musician. The thrill of performing on stage is an incredible high. In many ways, it's almost like a car accident. Everything on stage slows down. You become much more aware of every little mistake and nuance and are much more gratified when your voice reaches in vain for that high note and you belt it out flawlessly. And there's nothing that can beat the look on a crowd's face and the feeling you get when they're totally into a song and begin to feed off that energy you're giving. In many ways, it's also kind of like sports. Playing live is your equivalent of the big game. You spend all this time practicing in the backyard and with your team, and when you finally get out there, all the roar of the crowd, everything makes it worth it for that performance. But perhaps the saddest reality is that the high we get from playing live and the joy of sharing music with others is that bands are desperate to play. And many will do anything despite a huge loss of money, such as the pay-to-play scheme. You pay so many hundreds of dollars to rent a venue, do all of the promoting, run the show, and assume all of the risk playing a show. Likewise, there are businesses and promoters, for example, who make thousands of dollars promoting shows of bands who are not yet old enough to drink and can't get a show elsewhere. Just sell these 50 tickets for $10 a piece, which is typically $500 clear profit for the promoter, and you can play a 30-minute set. You do all of the legwork and reap virtually none of the rewards. So, with all of this in mind, do I have any answers to the problems facing bands and music venues? Not really, but I do have a few suggestions. One piece of advice I can give to bookers and bands is for bands to only play a show in any given market once a month. That way, it gives your regular patrons a break as well as gives the band a break to rehearse more. For bands, I would recommend every single show you play to do something different. Write a new song, learn a new cover, break out an old song from your past, wear a freakish costume. If you keep doing the same set repeatedly, it gets boring for yourself and your friends and fans who continue to come and see you. Most importantly though, I must reiterate that bands and venue owners alike must view each other as allies and equal partners, not as greedy business owners versus the lazy band. We're all in this together. Club owners, you want a packed house with people drinking your liquor just as much as we want a large audience headbanging to our music and willing to buy some merch. We all want to get paid and paid fairly at the end of the night. Simply blaming a band for no one showing up is bullshit, because as the venue owner, you're partly to blame yourself for not convincing people that your establishment ought to be packed nightly. Also, some nights are just dead. Every band has experienced the nights where you play to the bartenders. Even if a band has a large local following and it's a Saturday night and they've flyered the town, sometimes everyone else just has other things going on. That's life. It does no one good to play the blame game. If the venue and the band has tried their hardest to promote a show and no one shows up, learn from it.